It was the sound of the house settling that broke me. That soft pop in the drywall, a creak along the upstairs hallway. Harmless things. Things a person lives with for years without a second thought. But after the fire, after the screams and the silence, those noises weren't just noises anymore. They became reminders. Echoes. Ghosts. Some nights, that creak sounded like her footsteps. I'd lie there, eyes open, chest tight, blanket pulled up like armor, and in the split second before logic returned, I'd think it was Ellie, that she'd made it out, that somehow I'd been wrong and this nightmare was over. Then the truth would come crawling back like smoke under a door. The bedroom would remain dark. The hallway would stay empty, and the silence that followed felt like a goddamn punishment. My name is Warren Hale. I'm 52 years old, used to teach high school English. Now I stare at ceilings. I pour coffee I never drink. I walk into rooms and forget what I came for. My wife Caroline left me 5 years ago. She said she couldn't live in a house where grief had rotted into routine. I didn't fight her. I couldn't. By then most days I couldn't even dress myself before noon. Ellie was our only child, 17, senior year. Applied to NYU without telling me, even got accepted early. Her mother cried when she found out, more from pride than fear. I remember hugging her in the driveway, her little arms around my waist. She said, "Don't be mad, Dad. I just wanted it to be mine." God help me, I understood that. The night she died, I was in Knoxville. A school board conference, 2 hours away. I got the call at 2. The deputy's voice was calm, rehearsed. There'd been a fire. My daughter was believed to be inside. Believed. That word cut through me like broken glass. I drove 90 miles per hour down a fog-slicked interstate, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to in 20 years. When I got there, the roof had already caved in. The smell, acrid, electric, almost metallic. It would never leave my nostrils. They handed me a plastic evidence bag. Inside was Ellie's necklace. Sterling silver, music note charm. The chain half melted into a loop. Her body was found near the kitchen. They said she must have tried to escape through the back door. It was locked. I don't remember the funeral. Not really. I know the church was full. I know someone played a recording of Ellie singing Hallelujah at her school recital. I know Caroline stood next to me and cried until her knees buckled. And I know that afterward, people brought over lasagna and banana bread, and grief wrapped in casserole dishes. They said things like, "She's in a better place," and "You're so strong." Lies. All of it. There is no better place for a 17-year-old girl than her goddamn bedroom. But what I remember most, what I still hear in my bones, is the sound of my brother's voice. Raymond. He stood in the back during the service. Didn't come up to speak. Didn't sit with us. Afterward, while I stood on the porch trying to breathe through the weight in my chest, he walked up behind me and said, "If you need anything, anything at all, you let me know." It was the way he said it that struck me. Not the words, the pause after anything, like he had to remind himself to care, like he was reading a line he didn't believe in. His voice was soft, practiced, almost too smooth, and his eyes, that was the first time I noticed, didn't match the rest of the corners of his mouth turned down in sympathy, but his eyes, they were cold, distant, focused on something else entirely. "Let me tell you about Raymond. He's 56. 4 years older, always the golden child, played football, won class president, got a business degree from some state school and came back home like a hero, ran a car dealership for a while, now he's into property, low-income housing mostly, buys places for cheap, flips them fast, rents them out. He calls it giving people second chances. I call it exploitation, but Ray's never cared much about what I think, or anyone else for that matter. We were close once. When we were kids, he taught me how to ride a bike, how to punch a kid without getting caught. Our father was a quiet, brutal man. Fists first, apologies never. And Ray learned how to take a hit early. I think it changed him, made him see the world as something to beat before it beat you. He was always good at reading people, knowing what they wanted, what they feared, and more importantly, what they'd pay to keep hidden. After our mother died, Ray took over her estate, handled the paperwork,
sorted the house, arranged the cremation. I let him. I was neck-deep in divorce filings and grading finals. And honestly, I didn't have the stomach for more grief. But when I finally went to clean out her garage, I found something he'd missed. A box of journals, wrapped in plastic, hidden behind the water heater. She'd been writing them since the 70s, pages upon pages of unfiltered thought, fears, dreams, suspicion. And inside, between grocery lists and recipes, were things I never knew. That our father had cheated, that he'd hit her even after the cancer came back, that Ray had known, and said nothing, that he'd lied to protect him, that he'd lied to me. That was the beginning of the end. I never confronted Ray. What would have been the point? He would have smiled, denied it, and told me I was letting emotions get the better of me. That was his favorite line. But after Ellie died, and I saw him at the funeral with that strange absent look, something twisted in me. It didn't feel right. None of it did. And when I remembered, a week later, that Ray had helped me take out a new insurance policy 2 years ago, just in case, he said, in case anything ever happened to the house, I felt something cold crawl up my spine. It was supposed to be nothing, a precaution. He'd talked me into it during Thanksgiving dinner. Ellie had just turned 15. She'd made pumpkin pie and used too much cinnamon, and we were all laughing. I remember Ray pulling me aside and saying, "With the way the world's going, man, you gotta protect your investment." His tone had been casual, almost joking, but the paperwork was real, and so was the payout. Nearly $600,000. I didn't even remember the amount until I saw it again. The claim had already gone through. The money deposited into a joint account he'd helped me set up. I hadn't touched, couldn't even look at it, but Ray had access. And when I checked the statements, my hands went numb. 3 withdrawals, each for $25,000, labeled property acquisition, same day each month. I confronted him that, "You took money from Ellie's insurance," I said, my voice hoarse, my hands shaking. Ray didn't flinch. "It's your money, Warren. I just moved it to a better investment vehicle. You'll see a return within the year. You didn't ask me. I didn't think I had to. You've been going through it. I figured I'd take something off your plate." That's when I saw it. The flicker in his eye. Not guilt, not fear. Amusement, like he was watching a dog bark at its own reflection. "You son of a bitch," I whispered. Ray's face hard. "Don't get self-righteous with me. You were barely holding it together. You think Ellie would have wanted you to rot in that house, surrounded by her ashes?" I almost hit him. My fist actually rose halfway, but I didn't. I lowered it, took a step back, and said nothing. That night, I opened every drawer in my house, every file cabinet, every email. I read through the insurance forms, every line. I rewatched the footage from my doorbell cam, hoping for anything. A shadow, a figure, something. What I found instead was worse. A week before the fire, Ray had come over. I was out at a teacher's conference, but Ellie was home. She'd texted me. "Uncle Ray stopped by, said he needed the key to the back shed." I didn't think anything of it at the time, but the shed, that's where the electrical breaker was. The official cause of the fire, electrical malfunction. I started looking at the fire marshal's report, line by line, and there it was. Suspicious tampering with sub-panel wiring. Investigation inconclusive. Ray had the key. Ray had access. Ray had motive. Just like that, I knew. He did it.
You think when you figure something like that out, when the last puzzle piece clicks into place, that you'll feel something. Rage, vindication, maybe even purpose. But I didn't feel any of that. Not right away. I sat there in my kitchen, in the same spot where Ellie used to leave her school books, and I stared at that one line in the fire report until the letters blurred. Suspicious tampering. 4 syllables that tore a hole in my chest. I'd spent weeks drowning in sorrow, blaming myself for not being there, for not driving home sooner, for letting her stay alone that night. And all this time, the truth had been coiled like a snake at my feet, waiting for me to stop crying long enough to see it. He killed her. He killed my daughter. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. What was I going to say? That my brother borrowed a shed key and now my child was dead? That 3 months before, he helped me sign an insurance policy I didn't read carefully enough? There was no proof, just feelings, smells, vague inconsistencies. I could already hear the detective's voice. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Hale, but we can't pursue something based on grief." So I did what I always do. I started a notebook, spiral-bound, college-ruled, just like the ones I used to make my students keep for poetry. I titled it simply, Raymond. Every page became a trap. Dates, financial records, text messages, old emails, photographs, anything that didn't line up. Receipts from hardware stores he'd visited. A single blurry photo of him walking past my back fence on the Wednesday before the fire, pulled from the motion sensor camera Ellie had installed because raccoons are weird. I dug deep. I even called an old student of mine, Justin Min, who now works in digital forensics, told him I suspected a fraud case, left out the details. He owed me one. I wrote his recommendation to Stanford. You got access to his email? Justin asked. No, I said, but I have his old laptop. He left it at my place 2 Thanksgivings ago. 2 days later, Justin cracked it. Remote access, no alerts. I watched as he mapped the contents from my kitchen table. My heart pounded with every click. There's a hidden folder here, he said. Encrypted, but I can try. Do it. He looked up. You sure you want to know what's in there? I didn't answer. 3 hours later, I was staring at a spreadsheet labeled Red Sun Clients 2022 EBAX-LS, and a series of voice memos. I opened one, already taken care of. Fire codes in that county are shit. No alarms. Just a fuse trick and a bottle of bleach behind a stove. Give it 3 minutes after the breaker goes. My stomach turned. I knew that voice. Raymond. I don't remember throwing up. I must have. I woke up on the bathroom floor with my shirt soaked and my throat burning. He hadn't just killed Ellie. He'd done it before. The spreadsheet listed names, addresses, payouts. 3 families, all of them poor. All of them listed as accidental fire loss cases. All of them had recently taken out insurance through brokers affiliated with a company called Red Sun Holdings. That was his company. He built a business off of loss, off of burning people's homes to the ground for money. He'd built it in front of me, and I hadn't seen it. I stared at the ceiling tiles of my bathroom, and imagined my daughter in her last moments. The smoke, the heat, the locked back door, the sound of her screaming for a father who wasn't home. That's when something broke inside me. Not like a bone breaks, more like when a rope snaps after too much weight, slow at first, fibers straining, until all at once it gives. I stopped crying. I stopped shaking. Something inside me went very still. I stood up, rinsed my mouth, and made a decision. I was going to kill my brother, and I wasn't going to do it quickly. I was going to take everything from him, piece by piece, just like he took from me. But I wouldn't make the mistake he made. I wouldn't get caught. I'd bury him so deep in the ruins of his own sins that no one would bother digging him back up. The first thing I did was vanish. Not literally. I still showed up to work, returned calls, smiled when I had to, but inside, I withdrew, started planning. Raymond trusted me, despite everything. He still thought of me as the weak one, the kid brother, the academic. He'd always seen me that way. I used that. I called him up and apologized. Look, I'm sorry about the accusations, I said. I wasn't in my right mind. You've been trying to help. I get that now. There was a pause on the line. Then water under the bridge. War. I get it. Grief makes people say wild things. I just need something to focus on. Maybe I could help with the business a little. I've got time. God knows I've got time. He hesitated. You serious? Dead serious. I could almost hear the smirk forming. He thought he'd won. And so he brought me in. Over the next few months, I became his partner on paper. He needed someone with a clean history to act as a face for some of his new ventures, a legal buffer in case of audits. He trusted me to sign things, meet clients. He even gave me access to the office downtown. Don't worry about the books, he said. I'll handle the numbers. But I did worry. I read every contract, every memo, every transfer. I built a second notebook, this one titled Gravity, and inside it I detailed every illegal maneuver he'd ever made. Shell corporations, offshore accounts, fires that looked a little too clean, evictions that skirted the law, photos of burned properties that matched the same pattern. And then I started talking, not to the police, not yet, to his partners, his clients, quiet conversations over drinks, gentle suggestions that Ray might not be the man they thought he was. Just between us, I'd say, keep your eyes open. Doubt is a virus. It spreads, quietly, quickly. Ray didn't notice at first. He was too busy planning some big expansion. Phoenix maybe, Dallas, something about new zoning law. He never stopped bragging about how regulations are just paperwork in disguise. He said it like it was a punchline. He didn't know I was recording. I also went back to Justin. I told him everything. He didn't react the way I expected. He just nodded and said, okay. What do you want me to do? I want to destroy him, I said.
Not kill him, not yet. I want to pull the rug out first. We set up a digital trap, a series of fake investment opportunities. One of Justin's friends, a former compliance officer, posed as a foreign investor, big money, low ethics, exactly Ray's type. And he took the bait. Within 6 weeks we had him on video, agreeing to launder funds through a made-up tech company with zero oversight. He signed NDAs, he promised 30% returns, he even emailed instructions on how to split the insurance payouts discreetly. I waited, let him dig deeper, then I triggered the collapse. Anonymous tips to the IRS, selective leaks to journalists, a box of files, copies of everything, mailed to a district attorney I knew through a friend, everything meticulously timed to hit within 48 hours. By the time Ray called me, his voice was pure static. "You son of a bitch." I didn't say a word, I just let him scream. He cursed me, threatened me, begged me, and when he finally stopped to breathe I said, "I know about Ellie." Silence. "Then you don't know shit." "I know enough." Another pause, then softer. "She was supposed to be out that night." My heart stopped. "What?" "I told her to go to a friend's. She said she would." I didn't check." "You set the fire knowing she might be inside." "I didn't know she was still there, Warren. I swear to God I didn't know." He was crying now, real tears, wet, choking gasps. "She texted me later, said she decided to stay in. I didn't see it until after. I thought she was gone." "I wouldn't have." "I didn't. You locked the back door." "I didn't know she was home." There was a part of me, a small flickering part, that almost believed him. That's the worst part, the hope, the need to believe that maybe my daughter's death was a mistake. But even if it was still murder, negligent, greedy, cowardly, and deliberate. I said nothing. He kept talking, kept rambling, kept trying to explain the unexplainable. I hung up. The next morning, the FBI raided his office. I wasn't there. I was at the cemetery. I sat next to Ellie's grave in the cold wind and listened to the birds argue in the trees. And I waited for peace to come. It didn't. It never has.
I thought watching Ray fall would be enough. I told myself the investigations, the indictments, the headlines, they'd be justice. That seeing his name dragged through the mud, watching his empire collapse, would give me closure. But there was no closure, just more silence. He didn't go to jail, not yet anyway. His lawyers were too good, and his money, what he hadn't hidden, bought time. He blamed me publicly, of course, claimed I forged documents, hacked his email, leaked sensitive material in some twisted vendetta. He even tried to sue. Didn't work, but it was enough to muddy the waters. Half the town thought I'd lost it. Grief, they said. He's unstable. Poor guy lost his daughter, and snapped. The other half just didn't care. People don't want truth. They want comfort. They want a version of the world that lets him sleep at night. I spent my days wandering hardware stores, not for anything I needed, just to be around tools, blades, ropes, chemicals. There was a kind of peace in the aisles. Order, sharpness, things that made sense. I memorized the smell of acetone. I knew which brands of bleach left no residue. I started sleeping in the garage, next to the shed where the breaker box used to be, where he'd knelt, where he'd planned. I didn't write anymore, didn't read, didn't speak to friends. I stopped being a teacher, even though technically I was still employed. They gave me compassionate leave. Nobody argued, nobody asked questions. I was the ghost in the staff directory. Caroline visited once. It was late fall. She stood in the doorway like someone afraid of waking a sleeping dog. We hadn't spoken in over a year, not since she moved to Michigan. "I heard about Ray," she said. I nodded, didn't look at her. "They say you orchestrated the whole thing." I nodded again. She stepped into the kitchen, looked around like it was a crime scene. "I went by the cemetery last week," she said, her voice trembling. "Someone smashed Ellie's headstone." I looked up at that. Finally. What? It was deliberate, not an accident. They sprayed something on it. Paint thinner maybe. Left burn marks. I stood slowly, my hands clenched before I even realized it. Was it him? Caroline shook her head. "Doesn't matter. You're turning into him." She said it softly, not angry, not accusing, just sad. "I'm nothing like him." "You sure about that?" She left after that. I didn't stop her, didn't ask if she was safe, didn't tell her what I was planning. There are certain thresholds you cross alone. I started following Ray, not every day, not right away, but after a few weeks, I needed to see him, needed to understand what kind of man walks away from his niece's death, and still shaves, still smiles, still orders filet mignon in hotel bars. He wasn't living in the city anymore. He'd moved into a gated community near the state line, hiding behind lawyers and landscaping. But money doesn't change habits. He still had routines. Golf on Wednesdays, a woman on Fridays, never the same one twice. Brunch on Sundays with men who wore suits even in the heat. It was almost laughable, like watching a dying animal parade around pretending it wasn't bleeding. I wore a hat, sunglasses, sometimes a hoodie. Sometimes I followed on foot, other times I just parked across from his favorite coffee shop and watched. He never saw me, or maybe he did and just didn't care. There was a day, early December, when he was sitting in a diner laughing, full belly laugh, mouth wide, head back. I could hear it through the glass, and something in me snapped. I went home and opened a new notebook. This one I labeled Blood. It was the thinnest one yet. Inside I wrote a list, a very specific list. 1. His car. 2. His home. 3. His dog, a white shepherd named Baxter. 4. The woman from Friday, name unknown. 5. His hands. I wasn't thinking clearly, or maybe I was thinking clearer than ever. Grief has a way of simplifying things. It cuts through the noise. Everything became math, equations of pain and retribution. I started with the car, a 2021 BMW, black, vanity plate, Ray 1. He loved that thing. I waited until it was parked outside the spa he liked, brought a jerry can. I doused the inside, lit a match. It went up so fast it startled me. People screamed, called 911. I walked away, calm. Nobody noticed. Next was his house. I didn't want to burn it. That would be too fast, too obvious. So I broke in, took nothing, but I made changes. I reversed the labels on his pill bottles, turned every picture of Ellie I could find upside down, unplugged his freezer and left the door cracked, took his dog's collar and left it in the oven. Then I let myself out and locked the door behind me. 3 days later, he filed a police report, claimed someone was trying to rattle him. He wasn't wrong, but he didn't suspect me, not yet. He started spiraling, showing up drunk to meetings, missing deadlines. His business partners abandoned ship. His girlfriend, or whatever she was, disappeared. And still, it wasn't enough. He hadn't suffered yet, not really. I needed him to feel the heat, the same way Ellie must have. The panic, the slow understanding that death was coming and there was no way out. I found the perfect place, a house he'd once owned, burned down, rebuilt, then abandoned after an inspection flagged structural faults. I broke in through the side, set up candles, mirrors, laid out photos of Ellie, the necklace, a copy of the fire marshal's report. Then I called him, used a burner phone. Come to 947 Willow, I said. Alone. Now, who is this? She says she forgives you, but I don't. And I hung up. He showed up an hour later, sweating, wide-eyed, holding something in his coat. Maybe a gun, maybe just fear. I watched from the upstairs hallway, watched him move through the house, calling my name. He saw the pictures, the candles, the evidence. He dropped to his knees, started sobbing. I didn't mean for her to die, he kept saying. I didn't, and I stepped out of the shadows. He froze, his mouth opened, closed. Warren, I didn't say anything. I held a lighter in one hand, and a bottle of turpentine in the other. He backed away, shaking his head. Don't, come on man, you don't want this. I didn't want her to die. It was an accident. No, I said, it was math. You did the numbers, decided her life wasn't worth the payout. That's not true. I didn't know she was home. But you still lit the fuse. Silence. I'm sorry, he said finally, and maybe he meant it, but it was too late. I set the bottle down, opened the cap, poured a thin line across the floor between us. He started to cry. I have nightmares, he said. Every night, I see her face, I hear her voice, I wake up choking. Is that not enough? No, I said, and I lit the match. But I didn't throw it. I just held it, watched the flame flicker, watched him sweat. Then I dropped it into a sink of water beside me and turned to leave. He didn't follow. I think he knew. I didn't need to burn him. He was already burning.
He collapsed 2 days later. Stroke, stress-induced, they said. He survived, but barely. Can't speak anymore. Can't move the right side of his body. Needs a nurse for everything. Justice? Not even close. Ellie's still dead. Caroline won't return my calls, and I wake up every night with smoke in my lungs and guilt in my throat. I got what I wanted, and it didn't fix a goddamn thing.
They say revenge is a poison you drink hoping the other person dies. I think that's bullshit. Revenge isn't poison. It's a diet. You live off it. You build your bones from it. Every breath, every heartbeat, every sleepless hour, it all feeds into one single purpose: make him hurt. But when the pain arrives, when you actually win, it doesn't taste like victory. It tastes like rot. Raymond's in a wheelchair now. Can't talk, can't walk, can't barely blink with his right eye. His nurse, some 20-something who calls herself Ivy, thinks I'm his only family. She calls me Mr. Hale, asks if I want to help pick out clothes for him. I nod, I smile, and I sit beside the bed of the man who killed my daughter, day after day, watching drool slip down his chin like he's a goddamn baby. Is this justice? No, it's maintenance. Some nights I talk to him, just to hear my voice echo in the sterile room. I tell him stories. About Ellie. About her first solo in choir. About the night she crashed my car sneaking out. About the time she caught me crying after the divorce and made me cocoa without saying a word. I tell him everything I wish I'd said to her before she died. Sometimes I think I see something in his face when I talk. A twitch. A blink. A tear. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's just nerves firing into a void. Either way, I keep talking. But not because I forgive him. Because I want him to remember. Because I want the last sound he hears, in the silence of that hospital bed, to be my daughter's name. Ellie. 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 Then one day, Ivy asks me a question. Did he ever tell you about the other girl? I freeze. What? She shrugs. Casual. He mumbles sometimes. At night. Said something about a girl. She wasn't supposed to be there. She knew too much. You know, that kind of thing. My stomach drops. He said she knew. Ivy nods. Yeah. Thought maybe he was talking about your daughter. No. No, that doesn't make sense. Ellie didn't know. She couldn't have known. Or could she? I go home and dig out my old phone, the one I'd boxed up after the funeral. I charge it. Open her last text again. Uncle Ray stopped by. Said he needed the key to the back shed. Innocent enough. But there's a follow-up I never noticed. A voice memo sent a minute later. I play it. Static. Then Ellie's voice. Hey. This is probably nothing, but Uncle Ray was weird today. Kept asking questions about the breaker box. Also, he left something in the trash. I took a picture. Love you. I freeze. She knew. I open the attachment. It's blurry, but unmistakable. A bottle of accelerant partially buried in the kitchen garbage. She saw it. She understood. She just didn't realize how dangerous that was. She must have confronted him later. Maybe called. Maybe texted. Maybe told him she knew. And that's when it changed. That's when it became murder. I sit down. Hard. The room is spinning. My heart is hammering in my chest. This isn't just about money anymore. Ray killed her not for greed, but for self-preservation. That's different. That's worse. And it changes everything. I drive to the hospital the next morning. I don't ask for permission. I just walk in. I stand over his bed. I know. I say, she found the bottle, didn't she? His mouth moves. Barely. He blinks. Once. Twice. Then tears spill down both cheeks. I lean in closer. I want to hear you say it. He can't. He won't. But his face, his fucking face, says everything. It's true. He killed her because she found out. Because she trusted him enough to say something. Because she thought he was still her uncle. I walk out, drive until my tank is empty, sit on the side of a country road, and scream until my throat is raw. That night, I have a dream. Ellie's standing in the kitchen. She's barefoot, wearing that oversized hoodie she loved, the NYU one. She's smiling, but it's wrong.
Her teeth are shadows. Her eyes are full of smoke. "You're not finished," she says. I wake up gasping, sweating, shaking, and I know what I have to do. I can't let him die in that bed. Not like this. Not peacefully. He killed her to cover his tracks. She trusted him. He betrayed her. And now he's getting sponge baths and soft food. No, he doesn't get out that easy. So I plan something final. Something permanent. I tell Ivy I'll sit the night shift, bring books, tea, even a crossword puzzle. At 3:17 a.m., she leaves. And it's just me and him. The machines beep softly. His mouth is open. His chest rises and falls. I stand beside the bed and take out the syringe. Not poison. Air. 5 cc's. Inject into the line. A slow embolism. Untraceable. He starts seizing within seconds. I hold his hand. "I hope you see her." I whisper, and I hope she turns her back. But I can't do it. At the last second, just before the plunger clicks, I stop. I pull the syringe out and throw it across the room. I scream. I sob. I punch the mattress until my knuckles split, and he just lies there wheezing, eyes wide, not from fear, from understanding. I won't kill him, because that's not justice, that's erasure, and he doesn't deserve to be erased. He deserves to rot, to live in that broken body, to remember every goddamn thing, to sit in the dark with her name burning behind his eyes forever. Ellie, Ellie, Ellie. It's been 6 months. The case against him is ongoing. The FBI contacted me twice. I gave them everything. The files, the voice memos, the spreadsheet, even the recording from the abandoned house. They asked why I had so much. I told them I was obsessed. They didn't press. They're still building the case. But he'll never stand trial. Not in that state. He sits in his room, drooling, mumbling, blinking. Sometimes I visit, just to remind him, just to say her name. He always cries. I've sold the house, moved into an apartment across town, got a job shelving books at the local library. Quiet work, honest work. People leave me alone. I still hear her voice at night, still smell the fire sometimes, still dream of those last minutes she must have lived through. And I know one thing. There is no peace, no closure, no justice. Only memory, only guilt, only her name. Over and over again. Until the world stops spinning. Ellie, 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 and me, the man who thought revenge would be enough, only to find that some grief is too big to bury, even in fire.
You think, after everything, the schemes, the ruin, the breakdowns, that there wouldn't be anything left to break, but there's always something left. One day, it's a photo, another, a voicemail you missed 2 years ago, and sometimes it's a manila envelope left in your mailbox, with no return address. It arrived in early spring, no note, no explanation, just a stack of photocopies, neatly stapled, court documents, letters, a birth certificate, and a photo. I stared at the photo for 20 minutes before I moved. It was a girl, 15, maybe 16. She had Ellie's eyes, Raymond's mouth, and my mother's hair. Her name, according to the attached documents, was Annalise McDowell, daughter of Rebecca McDowell, age 16.
Father Raymond Hale.
And the date of birth, 9 months after Ray took a business trip to New Orleans. The same year, Caroline and I split. The same year Ellie started asking questions about why her uncle was sending money to some random woman in Louisiana. It hit me like a freight train. Ellie knew. Not just about the fire. Not just about the accelerant. She knew about Annalise, about the affair, about the child. Ray had told me it was a one-time trip. Said he went to check on a property, attend a conference. But now I saw it clearly. He'd had a second life. A daughter. A whole other family. And Ellie had found out. Maybe by accident. Maybe she overheard a phone call. Maybe she saw the payments in his financial records. The ones he never bothered hiding because he thought no one was looking. Ellie wasn't just a casualty. She was a threat. Ray didn't kill her for money. He killed her to protect a secret I didn't even know existed. I dug deeper, called the number on the court forms. Rebecca McDowell answered. Her voice was cautious, tired, southern. I told her my name, told her who I was, told her what happened. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said, I knew this day would come. I asked, did he support her? Financially. Never in person. He was ashamed. I said nothing. She's a good kid, Rebecca said. Smart. Wants to be a teacher. I nearly dropped the phone. Excuse me? Yeah. English. Says she wants to help kids find their voice. Said that to me once. And I broke. I broke in a way I didn't know was left. Because somewhere out there was a girl with my brother's blood, my daughter's eyes, and the same goddamn dreams, and she had no idea who we were. I drove to see her. Didn't plan to, didn't pack, just got in the car and went. 6 hours. No music, no rest stops. Just the hum of the road and the sound of my own guilt. She was waiting outside a modest little ranch house when I pulled up. Rebecca had called ahead. Annalise was smaller than Ellie, softer, but the resemblance was there. When she smiled, hesitant, unsure, I felt like I was looking at a second chance wrapped in a first wound. She offered me sweet tea. I couldn't drink it. I sat on their porch swing and listened to her talk about school, about the class pet she was trying to keep alive despite an allergy. She was bright, brilliant even, and all I could think about was Raymond, what he stole, what he created, what he left behind. Annalise didn't ask many questions. She said I always wondered if I had family, if I had anyone. I nodded. You do? I said. I didn't tell her everything, not yet, but I will, eventually, because she deserves the truth, even if it shatters her, even if it turns me into the monster she learns to hate, because monsters tell the truth no one else can, because truth is the only thing that survives the fire. It's been 3 months. I still visit. She calls me Uncle Warren. Says I remind her of the books she reads, quiet men with heavy hearts. I tell her stories, real ones, and not so real ones. She listens. God, she listens. I can't bring Ellie back. I can't unburn the house, can't undo the moment I chose revenge over recovery, but I can sit in the ruins. I can hold space for the pain. I can be the man who didn't turn away. I haven't been to see Ray in weeks. I hear he's declining. His organs are failing. They say it won't be long. I hope when he dies he sees Ellie's face, and I hope wherever she is she looks away. This isn't redemption. There is no redemption, only consequence, only bloodlines and broken bones and the things we pass down without meaning to. Ray passed down the fire. I passed down the silence. And maybe, just maybe, Annalise will find the words we never could. She is the last page, the one we never wrote, but she's writing now. And I'm finally done. Ellie. Your name will never fade, your story will never burn, not while I still breathe.